Hi, hello, salut, bonjour. I hope you're doing very well from wherever you're watching at this moment. As always, I'm very glad to connect with you as we continue to cast our spotlight on the Republic of Cameroon, trying to understand what's been going on, especially after the presidential elections that took place on October 12, 2025. And as you know, we are still waiting for the official results scheduled for Monday, 27, 2025. In the meantime, though, I want to thank you all for your continuous support and for reaching out to wish me get well soon. If you subscribe to the channel, if you liked our videos, and if you commented and shared it with your circles, we continue to thank you, or even left a super chat or a super thanks. Thank you so much for all of that. And as always, let's start with the hard facts right off the top. It is very troubling to know that a country that prides itself in its motto, peace, work, fatherland, has now been in a situation where that peace is compromised. Because if peace has become silence and fear, then there is no more harmony, but more injustice. Across Cameroon, we have reports of gendarmes patrolling neighborhoods in plainclothes. Arrests are being made, curfews imposed, public manifestations and gatherings denied, communiques left, right, center. Some are calling for peace, others are issuing stern warning, telling people not to incite any form of public disorder. And one is left to wonder, is all of this because of the proclamation of results that have been scheduled for Monday, October 27? And if that were to be the case, it feels like intimidation to many observers. And even in the face of all this intimidation, some say they will never remain silent. And it's sad enough that we can inform you of at least 4 major arrests that have already taken place. We have Anicet Ekane, the president of l'Humanidem, and also a leader in the L'Union pour le Changement, the front or the platform that was responsible to prop Issa Tchiroma Bakary to the top when he came to the campaign for these presidential elections. Anicet Ekane is a prominent figure in Cameroon politics. Since from the late 80s to the 90s and up until today, he's been working hard to bring change in Cameroon. And his buddy, Djeukam Tchameni, a respectable civil rights activist who owns an institution in Bonaberi, Douala, was also arrested. His premises ransacked. Sources say he was manhandled by elements of the Bataillon d'Intervention Rapide, also known as B. And let's not forget that Florence Ticho, the treasurer for l'Humanidem, is also said to have been arrested alongside Anicet Ekane. And in similar manner, Fabrice Lena, the campaign manager of Ateki Seta Caxton, who publicly stated that Issa Tchiroma Bakary had won based on reports from polling stations, has also been arrested. All these arrests happening to folks that all they did was only ask for transparency, but yet preliminary reports suggest that they have been accused of inciting some form of violence and public disorder. Opposition sources say this is an old tactic revived from the days of the fight for the return of multi-party politics in Cameroon in the early 90s under the same Biya regime, when the late Maître Yondo Black, Suzanne Kalalobe, the Henriette Eques, and again Anicet Ekane. They say he's been through it, he's been there, done that, and is ready for whatever is to come. And all these arrests in an environment that is already as tense as it is. And it's a stark contrast when we hear on the radio and watch on TV and hear and read these communiques that are championing peace. How can you ask for peace and calm and then proceed to arrest citizens that have done nothing but just ask for transparency for the results of an election that is yet to be officially proclaimed? And just today, we've seen unverified reports stating that an arrest warrant may be in preparation for Issa Tchiroma Bakary himself. If confirmed, that could mark an explosive escalation. Because remember, Issa Tchiroma Bakary has declared himself the legitimate winner of these elections. And in an audio that he sent earlier on, He is calling on all Cameroonians, home and abroad, from the villages, the trenches, everywhere, to rally in a peaceful protest at 3 p.m. Cameroon time. And it has gone viral. From Washington to Toronto, Dubai to Beijing, Paris to London, there's a rallying cry for people to come together, mobilize, and defend the victory of the people of Cameroon. And that voice is resonating with so many people across the globe, and we continue to keep watch. In light of all this escalation, critics are pointing an accusing finger to some top government officials, saying that their outings have only been fanning the flames, citing the Minister of Territorial Administration, Paul Atanganji, who also declared that people should remember that in 2018, he arrested so many protesters. And this time around, he's still going to arrest more. And when he does, they are going to stay behind bars for a long, long time. Statements like this only go to fan the flames of a conflict that is already very heated. And let's not forget the face of the first casualty of this post-election crisis, Zuwairatu Hassana, that young teacher from Garwa who was shot and killed by a police bullet during a demonstration. She has since been buried according to local tradition. However, she represents the human cost of a system that claims to preserve peace but uses force to enforce it. Now let's be clear, protest is not rebellion, it's democracy in motion. Under Cameroon's constitution, Article 2, 1920, sovereignty belongs to the people. Every time the people stand up to speak up against their government, it is because something is wrong and they are looking for a solution. And most times it's a last resort because they have been crying. When you stop people from gathering, when people go on different platforms and can't express themselves because they are scared of being arrested, that is some form of tyranny. And like we've mentioned before, Cameroon must abide to international law too, because it has ratified international conventions and treaties. And under Article 21 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the will of the people shall be the basis of the authority of government. It is clear. The will of the people shall be the basis of the authority of government. All of this to tell you that the people have a right to peaceful protests. And speaking of peaceful protests, here is what every Cameroonian should know. You are not obliged to protest. You are not even supposed to be on the street in order to show that you are protesting. But if you choose to do so, please remain peaceful. Do not destroy property. Always abide by security forces. If they tell you to back off, back off. If they tell you to leave, leave. Your voice will be heard. Your manifestation will be taken into account because the world is watching. But by all means, you need to have emergency contacts ready. You need to know who to call, lawyers, journalists, and other civil rights activists, so that they can know where you've been taken. Never walk in the night. Don't sit in places and have conversations about politics in public. Avoid places that are isolated and lonely. Be among the crowd. Be vigilant. Observe around you. Look at suspicious activity, suspicious vehicles driving by. Always be alert. And always make sure you inform your loved ones when you're trying to make a trip to an unknown environment. And above all, document the process. But be careful to film at a distance and don't get close and involved in any confrontation whatsoever. Of course, everybody can stumble on this information, but it's important to give it as a reminder. In times like this, no information, no knowledge is wasted knowledge. And this tense political climate is nothing new to Cameroon politics. It seems like history repeating itself because just like we mentioned, in the early 90s, you had the Metro Yondo blacks arrested and jailed for demanding multi-party politics. 1992, Nijon Frundi under house arrest because he tried to claim his victory. We also heard of Villemort, what they called the ghost towns in the early 90s. Cities were paralyzed for so long. And of course, Issa Tchiroma Bakary knows a lot about this history because he was there and experienced most of it. Fast forward to 2018, Professor Maurice Kamto and many members of the MRC movement were arrested and jailed, and some of them are still languishing in prison today. Observers say the case of Professor Maurice Kamto in 2018 could have been very easy for the regime to handle because he was in his residence in Santa Barbara, Yaoundé. They may have thought they would apply the same pressure, but this time around, Issa Tchiroma Bakary is in Garwa, in an environment where he is highly guarded by people who have volunteered their lives to form a human shield around his residence. They've been interviewed in many media platforms and they tell us that they are standing there because they want to protect him up until the end. They are taking turns, people are keeping day watch, night watch, supporting each other, providing food. It is the highest level of bravery and sacrifice to see all these young men and women, the youth especially, gathered around the house of the person they call their leader, the person they've adopted as their president, because they believe he won this election squarely, and therefore they are ready to go to any length to protect his life. You may have seen some colorful comments online from certain Cameroonians making fun of these young people, these brave men and women that are protecting Issa Tchiroma Bakary's residence. According to them, this crowd is nothing compared to the powerful almighty military that at a snap of a finger, they will just blow them away and be able to go in there and arrest Issa Tchiroma Bakary if they wanted to. And to that, critics say those are comments that can only be made by privileged, ignorant people who don't yet understand that this is 2025. The youth are no longer whispering. They are filming. They are documenting everything. They know what they saw at the polling stations, and that is why they are protecting their vote. And it only makes sense for one to understand that Issa Tchiroma Bakary is no longer the human being Issa Tchiroma Bakary who belongs to his family. He has now become the property of Cameroonians. He's now become a legacy of Cameroonians, and Cameroonians want to carry him to the top. As they say, they want to take him to the Unity Palace, the home of the head of state. And of course, it is not for nothing that we are hearing of internet shutdown. Yes, the telecom company came out, the national telecom company came out to say they had a faulty line somewhere in Limbe and it affected internet connectivity in different parts of the country. But experts in the domain, like Rebecca Enonchong, one of our biggest tech entrepreneurs in Africa, she was able to confirm that no, this was not just a faulty line. It was a ploy by those in the government that are trying to dissuade people from making their voice heard or trying to keep them out and shut down connectivity because they don't want the world to see what's going on underneath the hood in Cameroon at this time. And as you know, internet shutdown is a weapon in the toolbox of those who always try to silence democracy. We've seen that before. In 2017 in Cameroon, the northwest and the southwest region were paralyzed and cut off from the entire world for almost 90 days. And that was because of the Anglophone crisis. And here we are today in 2025. They've already done a first test. Maybe it will shut off permanently on Monday. And so all the communiques we can hear from telecom companies giving excuses may not fly because the people are smart enough to know better. And that is a sad reality because we ought to protect free speech. We ought to protect the rights of the people to do business, to do what they want to do and connect with the world. Because we cannot be hearing peace, peace everywhere from radio jingles to TV panels, whereas in the streets, the authorities are taking different course of action, either silencing the people and keeping them away, not to see how others are being arrested. That is not democracy. And if they decide to go ahead to shut off internet in Cameroon because of these presidential elections, whether before, during, or after the proclamation, it will really be a sad turning point because Cameroon is at the crossroads. These elections has revealed a lot about the country. Who would have imagined that Issa Tchiroma Bakary, someone who was not well loved or well liked in the Anglophone community and many parts of the country, has now become the saving grace? Whereas we had opposition that was standing there. And this is also a test of solidarity for all the opposition leaders in Cameroon, because we are still waiting to see them come out as one block to defend the democratic rights of the people that are their voters. I understand that some of them have been reduced to nothing because they went into the elections well inflated and then they came out with less than 2 or 3% according to the results that we've heard or seen that have come out from the National Commission for Final Accounting. And even the original procès verbal from the field did not even show otherwise. But again, that is not democracy, because today may not be your turn, but tomorrow, what about the legislative and the municipal elections that are coming up? So it's important for these leaders to step up now and speak out, because they know the truth and they know what's going on. Now that people have been arrested, we also expect them to come out and march and go and demand for their release. Because if the arrest is unlawful, which we know it is based on the fact that there is no exposé de motif up until now that indicates that these people have actually incited violence. Because even the press release and the communique that you saw Anicet Ekane and Djeukam Tchameni come out and speak before the proclamation of results was postponed, because initially we all knew it was coming down on Thursday. They said people should stay home. People should stay home and celebrate. They did not incite any violence. And they were on the record. But then they're going to tell you that these special forces have special intelligence that you don't know. They know things you don't know. They've seen things you don't know. And therefore, these people may be accused of treason and all sorts. But that is not good in a country that is trying to preserve peace and protect democracy. We can do better. Africa is watching. The world is watching. So it's not uncommon to see that even in the ranks of the opposition, you see the division. The vice president of the SDF just resigned, accusing the party leader and I think Secretary General of so many unthinkable things. We also see top members of the PCRN party of Cabral Libi jumping off the ship and leaving him to himself. It is strange. He's a young fellow that should come out and speak to Cameroonians if he intends to govern this country. Because someone like Issa Tchiroma Bakary has said it clear. He's coming to do a government of transition. 4 or 5 years max, I think. Even at his age and the way he's conducting himself, he's only trying to restore some form of dignity and reconciliation to the country. So therefore, all these young people, all these people that have been building their political platforms for the past years, they should take the advantage to stay connected to the people and have a strong voter base. Tribalism will never take you to a 2D. Issa Tchiroma Bakary is from the north, but is able to resonate with people from the south, the east, the west, and even the center. Because as an opposition party leader, you don't have to be frustrated if you are not the front runner. Cameroon has not yet experienced change of power between different political parties. So we are just at the beginning, and therefore it was supposed to be all hands on deck. It's not time to be divisive. It's important to rally behind one candidate. And that explains why the people were able to side with Issa Tchiroma Bakary, because they could see through the lens. They could understand that the way people were moving, they were not moving straight as good politicians in the case of seeing their country going to the rubble and yet deciding not to form coalitions or even some form of alliance. But then, even when the elections was over, it was also time to come out and own up, take ownership and be accountable, and also speak the truth and be honest. What kind of country are we building if we cannot be honest to speak the truth? We see things in the ballot box. We see things at the polling station. We even have the original procès verbal that says that somebody won. And we see the results coming out that is showing another person winning. We still don't say anything. What kind of country are you building? What moral values are you passing on to your children and your future generation? If you cannot speak the truth, you see something at the ballot box, at the polling station, you have the original procès verbal. As a political party leader, you have the original copies. And yet you see that the National Commission for Final Counting is tabulating results that don't add up and don't make sense. And you are not publishing information that is supposed to be public in the very first place according to Section 113. To support the story of the truth, because this is about the truth. If you intend to govern Cameroon, you want to govern a country that is truthful and integral, that has some dignity and values. Because Cameroon needs to see a new day. And it's happening now. The youth are watching. What kind of civic education are you teaching the young people? Because bribery and corruption can save you 1 or 2 days, but it's not going to save your future generation. When somebody embezzles money that was meant for building roads, pipe-borne water, electricity, and schools, you think that you are collecting bribe to enjoy for the moment, but you're destroying the future of so many millions. And that is why we hear of all these gross allegations that some elites were coercing people, mounting pressure, because they knew that they had given money to people. They had given things to people, asking them to go vote for the ruling party, and they went and voted for the FSNC because those people probably gained consciousness and realized that they want meaningful change. That change is here. It has already come. You have to seize the moment. Don't let this moment pass you by. If you know the truth, don't sit on the sidelines. You need to step up and speak up. There are many influential Cameroonians that are probably on the sidelines, just waiting to see where this thing is going to go. No, you have to speak up. You have to speak up. Your voice cannot be silent. Everybody is not going to come out at the same time, do the same things, yes, but support in every way you can. We are hearing of people that were arrested. Those people that were arrested in Garoua and being transported to the military tribunal in Yaoundé, they need lawyers to defend them. People need to step up and help. When you hear your brother, your sister crying somewhere, people are being arrested. They need lawyers to bail them, to follow up the process, because the only way you can serve your people and your country is to stand up and speak up and do the right thing. Staying on the sidelines won't help. There are many brave men and women working right now in the state of Cameroon in different walks of life who are just holding their breath. They can't breathe anymore. They're just waiting for an opportunity for somebody to just open the door and bring change. Because, of course, anybody is allowed to vote for who they want to vote for, to adhere to what political party they want. But after 43 years and all the cries we see on the streets, something tells us it's obvious that change has come and people have been yearning for it, and it is time to embrace it. And just like Martin Niemöller said, and I'll paraphrase in context of Cameroon history, when they came for the lawyers and teachers, I did not speak up because I wasn't a lawyer nor a teacher. When they came for the journalists, like the Martinez Zogo, I did not speak up because I wasn't a journalist. When they came for the Anicet Ekane, for the Djeukam Tchameni, for the Florence Ticho, for the Fabrice Lena, and the many other Cameroonians from the MRC movement in 2018, they are still in jail for the Alain Forget. I did not speak up because I said I wasn't a politician. I wasn't an activist. I wasn't anything of a sort. And when they came for me, there was no one left to speak up. So Cameroonians, home and abroad, you need to pay attention. This is your moment. When things like this are happening, you may be thinking that it's only happening to others. It's not good to sit on the sidelines. Not everybody will do the exact same thing, but in any way you can lend your voice, your support, anything you can do, you have to. Because don't be afraid thinking that when you speak up, you're going to be considered a rebel. No. We need to elevate our democracy to be on par with countries that we like to compare with. Because our democracy is weak when we think that when you hear protest, you hear violence. No. You should think of peaceful protest. Protest is always supposed to be peaceful. Because we're never going to agree. Because even if Issa Tchiroma Bakary goes into a 2D, how is he going to face the people from the CPDM party? They will be his opposition. And they will oppose him with the last drop of their blood. And therefore, that is democracy. Good opposition. And even the people that are putting Issa Tchiroma Bakary into a 2D, they will also be there to observe and watch and make sure that he does that which he promised to do. That is called accountability. So democracy does not end when you vote a new person. It is just the beginning of the journey and the process. And for a country like Cameroon, this is a turning point because we probably haven't ever known real democracy. And this is the moment that we have to seize and put things in order. We have to have strong institutions that are above every individual. So, as the Constitutional Council prepares to proclaim the results of this presidential election on Monday, it is important to remember that democracy is not a gift from the powerful. It is the right of the governed. And I leave you with this quote from Thomas Jefferson, well reiterated by one of our former honorables, Honorable Joseph Weber, who stood in the National Assembly of Cameroon during the peak of the Anglophone crisis and said, "When injustice becomes law, resistance becomes a duty." I don't know who needs to hear this, but I thought I'd just reiterate it. And on to the next one. God bless Cameroon.